Hello and welcome to Third World Perspective. Today, we will be discussing the Third World perspective on human rights and the challenges faced by developing countries in protecting and promoting these rights. Human rights are an essential aspect of our shared humanity, and their protection is a fundamental responsibility of all nations. However, for many people living in developing countries, the reality of human rights is far from ideal. Despite international agreements and declarations, many communities continue to face serious violations of their basic rights and freedoms. From poverty and inequality to discrimination and violence, the Third World perspective on human rights highlights the unique challenges faced by communities in developing countries. These challenges are often rooted in historical injustices, such as colonization and slavery, and the ongoing legacy of these injustices continues to impact human rights in many countries today. One of the main issues facing many developing countries is the unequal distribution of resources, which can lead to poverty and social exclusion. For example, many communities living in poverty lack access to basic necessities such as clean water, healthcare, and education. This inequality also extends to the justice system, where marginalized communities often face discrimination and unequal treatment. In many cases, these human rights violations are perpetuated by political systems that prioritize the interests of the wealthy and powerful over the needs of the people. This includes corruption and lack of accountability, as well as restrictions on freedom of expression and assembly. Despite these challenges, there are also many inspiring examples of people and organizations working to defend human rights in developing countries. From grassroots activists to international organizations, these actors are working to create a more just and equitable world for all. However, these efforts require greater international support and cooperation. This includes increased funding for human rights organizations, as well as diplomatic and political support for those working on the ground. It also requires a more nuanced understanding of the unique historical, cultural, and political context of each country, and a recognition of the challenges faced by marginalized communities. Another important aspect of the Third World perspective on human rights is the role of media. Media plays a crucial role in shaping public opinion and raising awareness of human rights issues. However, in many developing countries, media is often controlled by the government or powerful elites, which can limit the freedom of the press and limit the public's access to diverse and critical perspectives. This can make it difficult for people to understand the full extent of human rights violations and to hold their leaders accountable. Media manipulations in developed countries are also an important aspect of the Third World perspective on human rights. In many developed countries, the media landscape is highly concentrated, with a few large corporations owning many of the major news outlets. This can lead to a narrow range of perspectives and interests being represented in the media and can limit the public's access to diverse and critical perspectives. Media manipulations can also take the form of disinformation and propaganda, which can spread false or misleading information and undermine public trust in the media and democratic institutions. In some cases, media manipulations may be driven by political or commercial interests and can have a significant impact on public opinion and policy decisions. Another issue in developed countries is the influence of big tech companies on the media. The growth of online platforms and social media has dramatically changed the media landscape and has given these companies significant power over the flow of information and public discourse. However, these companies often have limited accountability and transparency and can use their power to suppress dissenting voices or spread disinformation. Media manipulations are not just a problem in developing countries, but are also a concern in many developed countries. The Third World perspective on human rights highlights the need for a more diverse and critical media landscape and for greater transparency and accountability in the media. By working to promote and protect media freedom and pluralism, we can create a more informed and engaged public and a stronger and more democratic society. It is also important to note that human rights violations often have a disproportionate impact on women and girls. From gender-based violence and discrimination to limited access to education and healthcare, women and girls in developing countries often face significant challenges in realizing their human rights. This highlights the need for a gender-sensitive approach to human rights, which takes into account the unique experiences and perspectives of women and girls. Another aspect of the Third World perspective on human rights is the role of international actors, such as the United Nations and international non-governmental organizations. These actors can play a crucial role in promoting and protecting human rights in developing countries. However, their effectiveness is often limited by a lack of resources and political will, as well as by the challenges of working in complex and politically sensitive environments. Finally, it is important to recognize that human rights are not just an issue for developing countries. Human rights violations can occur anywhere in the world, and they can have a profound impact on people's lives and communities. By taking a third world perspective on human rights, we can gain a deeper understanding of the interconnected nature of human rights and the need for a more holistic approach to their protection and promotion. In conclusion, the third world perspective on human rights highlights the challenges faced by communities in developing countries and the need for a more proactive and nuanced approach to their protection and promotion. By working together, we can create a more just and equitable world for all. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Third World Perspective. Be sure to like and subscribe for more discussions on important global issues.